lesson, we're going to just mainly focus on rectangular prisms, and then we'll come back and do a part 2 of triangular prisms because they're solved slightly different. So there is a formula that you can use to find the surface area of a rectangular prism. So rectangular prism, we know it's a rectangular prism when the base is a rectangle. Okay, so we have our base, and then we've got the same number of sides that are on the base as how many pieces we have that make up of our lateral surface area. So you notice we have 4 sides on our base. We have 4 rectangular pieces that make up our blue section there, which is our lateral surface area. What the formula that we use is the surface area equals 2 times the length times the width, plus 2 times the length times height, plus 2 times the width times the height. That's kind of a complex formula. I did put it on this slide just so that you could see it. I'm going to go ahead and break down the prism slightly different, but that way at least you've been introduced to the formula in case you were to come across that on maybe Star or something. It could possibly pop up. The key thing for me is that you understand how to find the surface area, not necessarily that you know the formula. So here, when we go through and we break down this piece, we've got our bases, which if you notice here, I have the net version of our 3-dimensional figure, and then here we've got our 3-dimensional figure. So our little red rectangles are our bases, and the dimensions on that are 3 by 5. So my little red rectangle that's there is 3 by 5, which gives me 15 for each side. Now there's actually 2 of those. So I'm just going to go ahead and write it one time. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in each of my pieces of my middle section. So when I'm looking at a 3-dimensional figure, I've got 6 by 3. I tend to break down off of the 3-dimensional figure, but I will show you using the net also what you've got. So here I've got a 6 by 3 rectangle. And 6 times 3 would give me 18. There are actually also 2 of those. There's the front and then the back here that you don't see. So this is my 6 by 3 right here that you're seeing as my front and my back. Okay. Then I also have a side rectangle that's making up the lateral surface. And this side is not marked, but I can use the height of this rectangle and see that it's actually 6 by 5. So I've got a 6 by 5 shape also. So 6 times 5 would give me 30, and there are 2 of those. So you'll notice that on a rectangular prism, there are 6 sides. Why 6 sides? Your bases have 4 sides on their base, which means there has to be 4 that make up that lateral surface area, and then you have your 2 bases also. So there are 6 sides. So now when I go through and I add this all together, I can either choose to multiply these out individually and then add them together, or I can add together my 15 plus 18 plus 30 and then take that sum times 2. Whatever you're more comfortable with. You have to decide what you would like. I'm going to go ahead and just piece them out each set individually. So 15, if I've got 2 of these, 15 times 2 is 30. Plus I've got 2 of my 18 areas. So 18 times 2 is 36. Plus I've got 2 sides that have a surface area of 30. So 30 times 2 gives me 60. I'm now going to add all of these together. I get 126. My units was inches. And it's surface area, so it's squared. So here I got 126 inches squared. Now you're gonna have to decide as you move on with these lessons, do you really need the net? I mean, I want you to be introduced to the net and understand how it breaks down. Some of you are going to need that so that you can see each and every single part separated out. And some of you are gonna be able to go ahead and look at the 3 faces that you can see off of this 3-dimensional drawing. And you're going to understand that there's really 2 of each of those. So you have to decide what you are most comfortable with. Okay, so let's go ahead and try another one. Once again, I will for this first one draw what the net would look like. But then from there, I'm going to go off of it without the net. So I have my bases, and my base is this figure right here. So it's a 2 by 3. So my base is 2 by 3. Okay, so that's what my base looks like, and then I've got another one down here somewhere. Remember, my bases always make up those 2 pieces that stick off. Okay. Then I also have, obviously this is 3 wide. So I've got a 3 wide by the height is 4. So that's this piece right here. So I have a 3 by 4, and then it looks like I've got my 2 by 4, which I'll do in blue, 2 by 4. Okay, and I can go ahead and mark these. This was what, 4, this was 2, this was 3, this was 4. So that you can see that every single piece is marked individually. Now, if I need to go through and use the net, I can go ahead and identify every single surface area. So 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 2 is 8, and I'm going to circle these so we don't get them mixed up. And then 4 by 3 is 12. I also have my little base number, 6 times 2, or 3 times 2 is 6, and then another 6 here. So now if I add all of those together, so I'm going to chunk numbers, 6 and 6 is 12, plus 8 and 8 is 16, plus 12 and 12 is 24. Now I can just add those 3 numbers together. So I get 28 plus 24 is going to give me 52. The label is feet and it's surface area, so it's squared. So that's using the net. Now I'm going to show you using my 3-dimensional figure there, how I could do that without having to draw out the net. So that I'm leaving that totally up to you. In our activity, we kind of got to learn and understand how to work off of a net. I would like you to try maybe drawing 1 or 2 nets, but understanding that really I want you to be able to piece apart what a 3-dimensional figure is made up of. Okay, so if I look at this off of my 3-dimensional figure, I have 2 by 4. Now I like to trace over it so that I'm actually seeing the sides that I'm talking about, and I can see that the 4, whoops, the 4 goes right here. So 2 by 4 would give me 8. There's another 8 right back here. So 8 plus 8. So that's actually, I'm just going to go times 2 because there's 2 of those. Okay, so that's my front and my back. Okay, my top here that's in red is 2 by 3, and there's 2 of those, so 2 times 3 is 6. And then I've got my sides, which are 4, sorry, it's colored over a little bit, by 3, which is 12, and there's another one right over here. So there's 2 12s. Okay, so now, whoops, and I put the parenthesis around the wrong one there. Okay, so then my next step would be to either go through and multiply these all out individually, or I could add them together and then take that whole thing times 2, but I'll go ahead and multiply them out individually. So 16 plus 12 plus 24. Okay, so when I add those together, I get 52 feet squared. Now, I would get the exact same thing if I went through and added these together. 14 plus 12 is going to give me 26. And if I took that times 2, it still gives me, and then I write it backwards, my goodness, it still gives me 52. Okay, so notice I got 52 no matter which way I did it, as long as I'm doing it consistently. Okay, you have to decide what you're comfortable with. From here on out, I'm going to go ahead and I'll draw the net, but I'm going to figure my area off of my 3-dimensional figure. Okay, if you need to see it on the net, you can break down that piece.